Hello, I'm Miss Ashley from Fibo Kids Art Academy, and welcome to another amazing art class. Today, we will be traveling to Indiana, located in the Midwest region of the United States. Most of Indiana has a humid climate with 4 distinct seasons, resulting in long, warm summers and cool winters. The state bird is the cardinal, the largemouth bass is the state animal, and the peony is the state flower. Indiana is known to have the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, home of the NASCAR Cup Series. Today, we will be drawing our own race car inspired by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. For a list of supplies, be sure to check the description of this video. Let's go ahead and get started. So here we have our race car. It has just won the race with all the confetti in the air. I made sure to make my race car the same color as the Indiana state flag, but that's up to you if you want to change it to any way that you would like. But I'm going to go ahead and put this aside so we can get ready for our practice draw. Now for our practice draw, I want you to make sure that you are using that pencil, but I'll be using a Sharpie so you can see my lines. All right, the first thing that we need to do is we're going to be starting making sure that our paper is horizontal, which means left to right. And I'm going to be drawing a big curve that goes up. Then I'm going to slant and draw a curve going up and down. So this is going to be the top of our race car. I'm going to slightly go in and down, a little bit out and slant. And then I'll come down. I'm going to start with the back of my car now by drawing an ever so slightly small straight line and then curve. Then curve down and straight line down. Then we need to make sure that we do draw a slanted line that's going to connect the car. However, we do want to separate it with the tires. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw that slanted line and stop. Then I'm going to draw a circle for that tire and curve over the tire. So I'm actually going to be doing the same thing on the other side. Slanted line and stop. Circle. And then curve that line around the tire. And then connect in the middle. So I want to make sure that that is even all throughout. Now in those circles, I can draw a smaller circle. And then we do need to draw another slanted line at the bottom. So slanted line, hop over, slanted line, hop over, slanted line. All right, I am going to add an oval right here. This is going to help me determine where my windows and door are going to go. So first things first, I'm going to draw a slanted line on the top, curve, and slightly curve. Then slant again, curve, line, and then connect. All right, I'm going to slightly curve out, straight, and slant down. And for the other side of the door, curve line like a backward C. And then I'm going to draw a line down and curve for the back window. Now our car does need some headlights and tail lights, so I'm going to go to the front of my car, draw a curved line going down, and then slanted line, because my whole car is slanted, so I want to make sure that those lines aren't perfectly straight. And then light backward C for the tail light. Now my car also has a spoiler, so I'm going to draw 2 lines coming up. Slanted line that connects, down and connect. 2 lines, line on top, curve, curve, hop over and down. So there's my car's spoiler. If you need to watch any of those steps, you can always go back and re-watch them. But our car is definitely not a flying car. So I want to make sure that I have this line that slants for my car to be on. And that is it for our practice draw. So if you do need to repeat any of those steps, you can always go back and rewatch the beginning. But I am going to be moving on to my final draw now. And we are going to be drawing this car again, only that we are going to be adding some details as well as more of that background. So go ahead, put your practice draw aside, and let's take out our brand new piece of paper for our final draw. Now make sure you are still using that pencil, but I'm using a Sharpie so you can see my lines. Make sure your paper is horizontal, which means side to side. And I'm going to bring this curve up and down. Then curve down for the front of my car. I'm going to go in and down, ever so slightly out, and curve down. On the back, I'm going to draw a straight line that then curves down, out, and down. Now I do need to also bring this curve down. So I curved, then straight line down. And now we're going to be adding those tires, but we also need to add the bottom of the car. So first, slanted line and stop, because I do need to draw that circle for the tire. You go around. Same thing on here, draw that straight line, but stop, because you're going to draw that tire. Then draw a curved line around the tire, and then make sure to connect those lines together. So there we have the body of our car. We do need to add some of those details, so I'm going to go back here, slanted line, hopping over the tire, slanted line, hop over the tire, slanted line. And then draw those circles inside your tire. All right, now I'm going to be drawing side view mirror. We're drawing kind of this rounded square. Kind of looks almost like a cup almost. Because then I'm going to draw a slanted line and curve and slant. Slanted line, curve, slightly straight, and connect. All right, and for that door, we're going to go ever so slanted, straight, and then slanted, and curved line. All right, now we need those headlights. Oh, we almost forgot the back window. Let's do that first by slanted and then curve. Now for the headlights, we're going to curve up ever so slightly, around, and then down. And then a backward C for that back one. Now it's optional if you want the spoiler on your car or not. I'm going to draw that spoiler by drawing two straight lines. Curve, slant it up, and connect. Two slanted lines and connect. Line, curve, curve. So there is my car. However, each race car is different with all sorts of different colors and stickers. So let's go ahead and just decorate our car a little bit. First, I'm going to draw a circle right here because I'm going to have a big number in the middle right there. In fact, I'm going to be drawing number 19 because it can be any number that you want. I'm also just going to add a nice sticker here. A rectangle. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. That's totally optional. But I also do want to draw a curve here because this part of my car is going to be a different color. And then here as well. So that way, parts of my cars are going to be different colors. All right, once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and draw that slanted line to make sure that our car is not in the air, but is on the racetrack. But I am going to be adding another slanted line, making sure to hop over that negative space. And then one more on the top. All right. As you can see, I made sure that my lines are super slanted. My car is not straight back and forth. It is ever so slightly slanted. Gives it a little bit more of that dynamic feel. But when you are done with your car, it should look something like this. So here is mine drawn in pencil. I'm going to go ahead and take a Sharpie and I'm going to outline only my car. I'm not going to be outlining the lines in the background. So with my Sharpie, I'm going to go ahead and outline just my car. So please do not outline anything else except for your car. All right. And I'm just making sure to outline. And getting all those lights as well. Again, make sure you're not outlining that background, only the car. All right, getting as close as I can to those tires. And don't forget those circles in there. And then curve up. All right, almost done with my car. All right, there's my windows. And my door. Now I'm going to do the number in a different color later, so I'm just going to leave that alone for right now. All right, so there is my car. I'm just going to go ahead and put my Sharpie aside. I'm going to take my eraser and put my pencil away. And I'm just going to erase those lines in my car. So make sure you don't erase those lines in the background because we actually do need to outline those with a gray marker. So we don't want to lose where those lines are. So I'm going to go ahead and take a gray marker and I'm going to outline those lines. All right, I'm just outlining those. And now I can go over and make sure that all of those pencil lines are erased. If you're still outlining your picture, you can go ahead and press pause on the video. The next coloring step that we're going to be doing is we're going to be coloring our car. So I'm going to go ahead and put my eraser away and I'm going to take out my markers. Now you can color your car any way that you would like to. Again, it's your race car. But I'm going to be doing the same colors as the Indiana state flag. But first things first, I'm going to be coloring my windows black. So I'm just going to take my black marker, make sure that cap is on the back. I'm holding low and going slow, making sure that I don't color any part of my car. Unless you want a black car, that's okay. But I'm just going to be using black for those windows and also for the tires. You can kind of tell my marker is just getting a little bit faded, so I'm just going to go over, make sure that it's nice and dark. All right. Oh, and also the tires. Don't forget your tires. And I'm just outlining and filling them in. All right, outlining some more, and filling that in. All right, once you are done with that black, you can go ahead and switch to a different color. I'm going to switch to blue, and I'm going to be using blue for just this section right here, as well as a few others, but I am going to make sure that I outline first, making sure my cap is on the back, getting all of those white parts. And then I'll outline my door. So getting as close as I can to my Sharpie line, excuse me. And if you need to turn your paper around just so you can make sure to color all parts of your picture, you can go ahead and do so. Excuse me. One reason I like to do this is because sometimes my arm likes to brush right over my picture. So I just want to make sure that I have a nice steady hand and I don't accidentally brush right over my picture. All right, getting close. And here as well. Again, you can use any color you want for this, but I'm using blue and yellow for my car. All right, so there's that. Again, just making sure that I've got all those white spots. And then I'm going to be coloring the rest of my car yellow, except for those stickers and the headlights and the tail light too. But first I'll start with my spoiler. And I like to color in those sections instead of scribbling back and forth. I'm just making sure to color around my car. I like to outline first, especially with those stickers and windows and that door, because I don't want my yellow marker to accidentally go over the blue and make it a little bit of this dark green. So just making sure, getting as close as I can. All right, got that. I'm going to avoid my sticker. I'm going around my door and my stickers, going close. And we're going to continue to fill that in. All right, great job on filling in your car. If you're still working though, just keep going. I do need to fill in that tail light. I'm going to leave this alone for right now. I'll go back to my gray marker in just a bit. I'm going to fill in that tail light. And I'm going to be taking my orange and filling this in. And then I'm just going to leave this alone. But instead I'm going to be taking my red again. Draw that number 19 in and make it kind of as bold as I possibly can. And I'll just do a few little scribbles there so it looks like writing. Now for that headlight, I want to make sure that it's not filled in. Instead, I'm just going to do some up and down lines and then across. And there is my car. If you are still working on your car, no worries. You can just keep going with that. You can always press pause on the video, but I am going to be moving on to colored pencils next. Now with my colored pencils, I'm going to be getting a really dark color, whether it's blue or black or brown. And I'm first going to just add some dark color under there. So that way it looks like that is the inside of the car. And same here. I'm using a brown, but you can use a black or a dark gray or a blue. But after you've done that, we are going to be adding some shading to our car. So since orange is next to yellow on the color wheel, I'm going to be using some orange to shade that car. So how I'm going to be doing that is I'm just going to go right here, color right on top of my marker, and press fair, not too hard, just enough so you can see that color. But just adding that shading. All right, so just adding some more shading. All right, there we go. Adding some under here and here. So that way it makes the car just stand out a little bit more and that it's not so flat and one-dimensional. Adding that shading here, and I'll get a little bit at the bottom here. And down here as well. And I'll add a little bit here too. If you find that maybe your color is not turning out as best as you want, maybe go over one more time and add another layer. With colored pencils, sometimes you need to add those layers just to really build up that color. And then I'll get a dark blue for those areas that are blue. And then I'm going to just use a blue and just do some zigzags around the car's tire here. All right. So that's actually it for our car, unless there's anything else that you still need to work on. I am going to take some gray though and just add a little bit of shading to that headlight. But now we're going to go ahead and work on the background. For our background, we're actually going to have to go back to our markers because we're going to be adding some confetti flying in the sky. Now, it is only going to be staying on the top part of our picture, so don't add it anywhere else down here. So you can go ahead and grab all sorts of different colors, and we're just going to add some squiggly lines. Don't make it too squiggly though, because confetti is made out of chopped up small pieces of paper, so it does not need to be too long. Make sure you're only adding it to the top part of your sky and that it's not anywhere at the bottom, because we are going to be using watercolor for that. And if we use watercolor on top of markers, it can spread and create kind of this like rainbow puddle on your picture. So do be extra careful to not get it anywhere below your car. And you can just switch to all sorts of different colors because confetti comes in all sorts of colors. Just adding those lines. And then I'm going to grab my light green and then yellow. Again, you can add all sorts of different colors. Maybe you wanted just yellow and blue for the Indiana state flag. That's up to you. I think instead of yellow, I am going to go for orange, but you can use whatever colors you want. All right, kind of looks like a birthday cake happening right now. All right. Let's go ahead and put those markers away. We're going to grab our chalk pastels. We're only doing one step in chalk pastel, which is we're going to be grabbing our light blue. Now for our light blue, we're actually not going to be filling in the entire background. Instead, I'm just going to go back and forth, making sure that I'm leaving some of those areas white. So for example, I'm leaving that white, this white. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine, but once you do add some of that blue, you're going to take one finger and just go back and forth on those areas. So make sure you're not blending the entire background, only just parts of the sky, because if you look close enough, it looks like some hazy clouds above. All right, so there is that. That was our only step with chalk pastels. You can use any shade of blue if you would like. It could be an evening sky or a night sky. Just make sure that you do blend it as best as you can. So now that we have a part of our picture done, we do need to switch to oil pastels next. We are first going to be coloring this strip right here, dark gray. So what I'm going to do is just I'm going to take my gray, use those short, hard strokes to fill it in. Now make sure you don't color over your car. You're just using those short, hard strokes to fill it in. Can get as close as I can to my car. And do the same thing on the other side. All right. Now the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding our crowd of people that are cheering that this car won. Now it would be a little bit troublesome if we did go in and draw each and every individual face in that crowd. That would be very time consuming and kind of a little bit hard because they all need to be so small. Instead, what you're going to do, just like we did with the confetti, you're going to grab any kind of color that you want, but instead of drawing squiggly lines, I'm just kind of going back and forth just to draw those short lines. That way it just looks like maybe heads or people's shirt. We just want to indicate that there's a crowd of people that came to watch these race cars, and we're just so happy that our car won. So adding those blue, and you're going to be doing this for a while with all sorts of different colors. So make sure you are spreading that blue or whatever color you're using first around, because I'm going to be using all sorts of different colors for our picture. You can even just add short lines. You can go back and forth. You can also, if you want to, so I'm just going to take my green, you can even go over some of those blue lines as well if you would like. But I'm just going over, adding some green lines to make it look like that crowd of people. So as I said earlier, we're not drawing in each individual person. We're just indicating that there is a big crowd that's watching the race cars. So go ahead, take your time with those colors. Grab any colors that you would like. If you want them all to be wearing yellow and blue, you can do that. But I find that adding more color to that picture really makes it stand out even more. So I'm going to go for red next. Just want to make sure that you can still see the white paper in the background. There's no need to color the entire part of our crowd. So we're going to be going over it in watercolor. So now it's starting to really look like that there's just a crowd watching the car go by. You can even grab yellow and pinks. Try your best to push yourself to use as many colors as you can. Again, we don't want those long lines. We just want some nice, short, hard lines. And it's okay to go over any of those colors you added on earlier. It makes it look a little bit more blended and more unique as well. But the crowd has really blended in together. All right, adding some more color. So really take your time. If you need to pause the video because you're still working on this area, go ahead and press pause. I'm still working on the area too. But just make sure you are adding those lines. Make sure you're going as close as you can to that car. I'm going to take some purple and then pink next. All right, we even have some of those lines go a little bit on the line also. All right. So there is my crowd of people. Let me just add a little bit of pink because some people wear pink to these sort of things. All right, so there is my crowd of people. If you're still working on that crowd, no worries. You can always press pause on the video. I am going to be grabbing my black now. Now, instead, I'm not going to be using short, hard strokes, but I'm going to tilt my paper to the side. I'm just going to take my black and I'm just going to add some nice lines underneath so it looks like a shadow underneath. Now, I'm not pressing too hard, but I am going as close as I can to my car. And I'm using black. And then once you're done with that, you're going to grab a purple or a dark blue. I'm going to grab purple. And I'm going to pinch and pull on the rest of my picture. Now make sure you're not pinching and pulling anywhere above the car because we already worked in this area right here. Just pinching and pulling. And if you want to, you can even take that purple and add a few more lines on top of that black. And then once you are done adding that purple or dark blue, whatever color you decided to use, I'm actually going to be taking my white and I am just going to add a highlight on those windows and two slanted lines. So that way it looks like that the light is reflecting on those windows. And also I'm just going to add some lines around the tires. Same right there. All right. That's actually it for our oil pastels, so we can go ahead and put those aside. We're going to be taking out our watercolors next. Now, where there's oil pastel, that's where we're painting. So we're not painting on the sky and we're not painting on our car. For my crowd of people, let me just move my color over so you can see what colors I'm using. For my crowd of people, I'm going to be using a blue. And I'm just going to paint right over those oil pastels. That way it just looks like they are sitting in that crowd and they start to blend together. Just make sure you're getting as close as you can to your car, but don't paint over your car because watercolor will mix with that marker and it could spread that color over your paper. So be extra careful as you paint around your car. All right, I'm getting as close as I can. All right, there's that. Getting just a little bit more blue. I find that the more paint that you use, the more it starts to blend in with all those lines from the crowd. So you just kind of want them to fade in a little bit with that watercolor, but still show that there are people. All right, we don't need to paint this area because we had already filled that in. Now I'm going to be taking some red violet and I'm going to fill in my road. And with the red violet, it should be light enough that you still see the oil pastel underneath. I'm getting as close as I can to my car as well, because even though I did fill in this area with oil pastel, I still want to get as close as I can to that car. All right. And then just going to paint and spread that around. If you do want to take your picture a step further, you can also get some blue or purple and add just a little bit of shading underneath here. So I'm just going to get some purple and add that. All right. So that way it looks like that racetrack that the car is on. Now you can leave your picture like this if you would like. However, I'm going to be switching gears now and I'm going to be using paper and cutting it out. So I'm just going to put this aside for right now. I'm going to clean my area as best as I can, just because I am going to be using paper and I don't want to get any watercolor on that paper. I want to keep it as dry as I can, but I am going to clean my table right here. And I'll put my picture aside with my sign here, just so I can leave it aside to dry, so you can still be able to see what I am doing. So let's put that car aside right there. I'm going to be adding 2 flags to my picture. The first thing that we do need to do is we need to grab a gray piece of paper. And I am going to be adding a line straight up and down. So I'm just going to draw a straight line. You can do this with a ruler if you would like. And then I'm going to add 2 circles at the bottom. Now I'm making sure that I'm drawing those circles as close to the bottom as the paper that I possibly can, because this is still a nice piece of paper that I can use for a different project. And once I've once I have drawn that, I'm going to cut this out. Now, I recommend using pencil to draw those lines, because I don't want to be able to see those lines by the time I create my flag. So I have this. I'm going to fold it in such a way, because depending on where you want to put your flag, I want to put a flag here and right here. So I do need to make sure that they are long enough, so I should be able to fold it almost in half and cut just along there. All right. Then I'm going to cut out my 2 circles. And I want to make sure that those 2 circles are separate. I drew what looks like the number 8 only because I wanted them as close as possible. So I'm just going to put my gray paper aside and draw or cut out those circles. Because I will be gluing them on the top right there. So I'll cut out my other one. I'll cut out that circle. Throw my scraps away. And then I'll glue the tops right there. So that way it looks like a flagpole. I'm going to take my glue and glue just the top and attach my circle. So now it looks like a flagpole. All right, and there is that. All right. I'm going to put those aside, and now I'm going to be working on the flag. So first things, we need a white flag, but we are going to be doing some coloring on it. Now when I draw things, now this is a small white scrap piece of paper that I had used for something else, but I'm going to be drawing my flag by drawing a wavy line, and I'm making sure I'm right along the edge of my paper. Straight, and draw that shape again, because I'm going to be cutting this out. Now I'm also going to be using this white paper for a stencil for my second flag. Now make sure that this flag is pretty big. You don't want it too teeny tiny, because these flags are in front of our car. So I want to make sure that they're big. I'm going to just toss that aside unless I need it for anything else. And then cut along there. So here's that. All right. Now I have my first flag, but also a nice stencil. I can easily take that stencil and grab either a pencil or a Sharpie and outline that flag. So I'll take a pencil because I don't want to see those black lines once I'm done tracing. So I'm just going to take my pencil and trace that flag. And once again, I made sure to go to the edge of my paper, so that way I'm not wasting too much of my paper. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So that way I should have two flags. So I have all this extra paper that I can use for a different project, so I'm going to put it aside with that gray paper. But I probably can't use these small scraps, so I will definitely make sure to toss it aside in the garbage when I am done. So you should have two flags. You can have them in any direction that you would like. I'm going to make sure that mine go like this though. My first flag, I need a black marker. So here is my black marker. We're going to make that checkered flag on the white one. So with my flag, my white one, I'm going to draw straight up and down lines, making sure that I skip to leave some white in between. And if you need to go back and forth, switch directions, you can do that, whatever is easiest for you. I'm going to make sure that my flag is checkered. Now, what helps is that we're giving our picture some time to dry. Also, when we draw the next lines going across, we want to make sure that we follow that wave. So go down and up and down. I'm going to go over to make it just a little bit thicker. I'll glue at the top too, just make sure it's nice and even. Down and up. All right, and then up, down, and up. So there is my checkered flag. And depending on what direction you want it, you can have it going this way or that way. It's up to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to the other side and I'm going to fold it over just a little bit. This will make sense, I promise, but make sure to fold a little bit of that flag over. So there's that part. I am going to make sure that I glue my flagpole down on that folded side, because when we glue it on, we want to make sure that our flag looks like it's waving instead of flat on the paper. So I'm going to take that, take my glue, and glue along that fold on the inside. Put that lid back on. And now, beforehand, let me make sure I'm using the right flagpole. So I'm actually using my longer one right here. So I'm making sure that that flagpole is glued on. So as you can see, as I hold this up, that flag will be able to wave on your paper. So we'll put that aside right there for now and work on our second flag. Now, my second flag is going to be the Indiana state flag. I'm going to simplify it though. There's a torch in the middle with some fire. So I'm going to draw some fire right there. And that torch. And we've got some lines coming out of it as well as stars. You can make it as exact as you would like, or you can make it a simplified flag. In fact, it can be even your own flag if you want. My race car is Indiana flag, or car, excuse me, of those same flag colors. So I'm just using my gold Sharpie. You can also do this with regular marker or oil pastel. But I'm just making sure that I've got my flag there. Now, if you want to be a little bit more advanced as well, you can go in with colored pencil and add some shading as well. So I can take my colored pencil, add that shading to it. You may have to press a little bit harder though, but that is okay. But just take that moment to add any of those details on your flag that you would like to. You can have your name on the flag. But there I have a little bit of shading that you should be able to see, just a little bit. But just like with this flag that we have here, you want to do the same thing, is you're going to fold it over. Because I'm having my flag go the other way, I'm going to take my flagpole and I'm only going to glue on that fold. I'm going to put my scissors aside because I no longer need them. And I'm going to glue that. Glue that here. Now again, as I said earlier, I'm going to make sure that that flag can wave, because now you're going to decide where you want to place your flag. So you may have to do a little bit of trimming at the end, but so I want to make sure that my flag comes out right here. So I'm going to go to the back of my flagpole. So you should be able to see that folded line, and I'm only going to glue on the back of that flagpole. And then flip it over, decide where I want that flagpole, and press down. So your flag should still be able to wave like so. Do the same thing on the next one. And I'll turn it over and wave it right there. Or press it down right there so it can wave right there. So your picture may have some extra flagpole sticking out. You can easily just look at it and trim off the bottom. If you do need any help from your parents, go ahead and you can ask them. But there is our picture. Make sure you throw out those scraps of paper that you no longer need. Make sure to also clean your table in case you got any glue on it. But that is our picture inspired by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had a lot of fun learning about Indiana and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Please post your pictures online. We would love to see them, and we will see you next time. Bye.